So first of all, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Alejandro Acero, and I'm the co-director of the e-tailing project, and as well as one of the moderators for today's roundtable. We are so very excited that you all have joined us for this symposium, and we are truly looking forward to this afternoon events. So for today, as we mentioned, we have here towering figures in the field that will help us to at least discuss some of the pressing questions that are urging the field right now. I would like first of all to welcome Dr. Maria Carreira. Maria, welcome in. Thank you so much for coming here and stay with us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me. I look forward to this conversation, and I've already enjoyed tremendously your presentation of the e-tailing project.
Thank you. Thank you. We also have Dr. Maria Luisa Parra. Maria Luisa, are you there?
I'm right here, Alejandro. Encantada de estar con todos. Gracias.
Un placer. We also have Dr. Diego Pascual y Cabo.
Thank you, Alejandro and Darian, for all your work. Only those of us who have organized conferences and events like this one know how much work it is, and so far it's going great. So congratulations, and I'm really looking forward to talking to everybody today.
Thank you so much, Diego. Thank you so much for your words. I would also like to welcome Dr. Kim Potowski, representing the University of Illinois, not by herself, but also with the help of Angela Betancourt. Kim, Angela, welcome in.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, and thanks for sharing that information about your project.
Thanks
Absolutely.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, as I mentioned, when we started, this is not a questionnaire that you have to answer. This aims to be a relaxed conversation about some of the topics that we are currently facing as scholars of this field, but also some of the topics that are hidden or are in front of us in the future. Of course, in order to develop and progress in the field, sometimes we need to take some risks, and I strongly encourage you to have or to make the most of this relaxed and friendly platform to, well, we already say divagar, of course, keeping your feet on the floor, but still try to think out of the box about these answers. So I assume that you all can see in front of your screen the first question that the audience voted. The question reads as follows. What ways can instructors of heritage speakers classrooms leverage technological tools to facilitate students' learning within and out of the classroom? Anyone feels comfortable to answer or just start talking about it?
I'm happy to start. That was my favorite question. I'll start out with that, even though I didn't vote for it on the poll. And I like the fact that you've encouraged us to think big, because when I prepared my notes, yesterday I went over and I read Robert Blake's book, Brave New Digital Classroom. I went through it again, and I'm thinking, well, that's the past, and it's very rich. There's a lot there, but let's look forward. I'm glad you're thinking big and you're looking forward. And I want to mention a couple of things that strike me as important about technology as we move forward. Facilitating learning is a great way to put it, and also facilitating college life. My students tell me that the distance learning allows them, they have to work, they're Latinos. Many of them do not come from wealthy homes. And so they have jobs. Also, if they're living on campus, they have to pay for the rent. And now they're living with mom and dad. Some of them have children. They're able to be home to take care of the children. So that's the big advantage that the distance learning provides. Of course, I'm not saying that should rule above everything else. We still want to deliver a quality product, but we need to think about that too, because our students are operating in this context where they have a lot of challenges outside of our classroom, and we need to think about facilitating that. And then the second big point that strikes me about technology is, as I look at what has happened this year, it's really gratifying to see the proliferation of workshops and blogs and resources that have emerged from independent people, independent teachers, teachers that have come together to create things. And so what it looks to me like, we no longer need to rely on big institutions to create for us. We can create ourselves. The e-telling project is a good example of that, right? And I think I'm now taking it to the students. The students can create textbooks. The students can create stories. Ada, who's here, and Alejandro, Lee, we're having our students document how the pandemic has impacted Latino students and the Latino community in our local area. So for me, the area is the Los Angeles area. And I think of this as the first step in a larger project that really connects well to the e-telling project. And that is heritage language speakers from all languages document and the current state of their communities. The internet allows us to put together a virtual museum. And so the students become doers, not just receivers of information from the outside world. So that's my 2 cents.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Maria, for that insightful comment. I think Maria also wants to share something. Maria Luisa?
Yes, of course. I love Maria's comments because I think that they speak to two main things, and that for technology or any pedagogical tool to be successful has to be linked to meaningful, uses in the community. And that the fact that students find ways to, or instructors find way to engage students with technologies for meaningful purposes, connecting with the community, I think that's a wonderful thing. In my end, for example, at my institution, everybody panicked so bad that we were bombarded with workshop after workshop for tools after tool. And I just didn't stop going because I couldn't really have the time to think and, think it through and say, why do I need all these things? How do they look like in the actual classroom, the virtual classroom? And it was until I started teaching that I thought, okay, I understand now that Google collaboration can be in this way, and I don't know, voice thread or whatever, right? But I think that technology, now there's so much, but as teachers, we need to choose which ones will serve better the purposes of our classes. And those purposes are going to be important if we relay them with meaningful topics and meaningful engagement for the students. So the example that you gave in terms of engaging with the communities and different generations, it's beautiful. The other point that I would like to make is that not all the students have access to not only the computer or the technology or the internet, but to the broad range of tools that are out there. I know that my students are, very familiar with Photoshop, Acrobat, some things, but not storytelling necessarily. And when I offer, creative projects this semester, most of them went back to paper and pencil colors. They didn't want to use technology at all. So I think that, it's an interesting dynamic, and it has to be grounded into meaningful uses and accessible for the students.
Thank you so much. And all of those points about strategic use and accessibility are definitely strongly things that we should consider. I see that Diego has raised his hand, and so I'm curious if you wanted to jump in as well.
Sure. Yeah, I absolutely agree with what Maria and Maria Luisa just said, especially the part that Maria Luisa said about making meaningful connections with the community. One thing that I think is use of technology is allowing us to do is something that that I've been trying to advocate for quite some time, which is that the idea that we think that the community and our classrooms or the university are two separate things, when the university should be part of the community as well, right? So our students don't see, their lives are not divided into university and their home. So now just the use of Zoom, for instance, we see our students in their homes with their families, asking questions to, or kissing their moms and their pets and stuff. It's allowing us to create a much bigger space, right? So the university and the community are finally getting much closer together, I think, which I absolutely love.
Well, if I can jump in, what's been very, very useful to me is that my two kids, they're not in college, they're in high school. They both attend different high schools, and they've been doing so remotely for the past year. And when I see what a 16 and a 15-year-old want to be doing, again, no están en la universidad, pero se acercan. And this is the first time in my life that I've had children in my home who are close in age to my undergrads, right? To the students that I'm serving. Which has been a tremendously beneficial, window for me, which also ties in with the TED Talk that I watched the other day, where it's not new, but this fellow was saying how, when left to their own devices, the kids, a lot of them, and access is an issue. They're online, they're doing this, they're doing that, and then we give them a book. In school, they have a book, a world history book, a math book, right? And so school is seen as like this book thing, and that we really need to do better. Some schools do better jobs than others, right? Integrating the tech into the learning. And again, this brecha digital, we absolutely have to keep it in mind. COVID just revealed all of the grietas que ya existían en la sociedad between folks who have access and folks who don't. But I will say this, I don't have the magic bullet for this brecha digital. I don't think anybody does. But when our students are at least on Zoom, yes, sometimes they're with their phones. Yes, sometimes their connection is not reliable, et cetera. I get that. But if they're able to access that, then they're able to access Google Docs. They're able to access, right, the things that are free, they're able to do. So one thing I've noticed, and I may be the least tech sort of savvy person in this panel, is that my undergrads, some of them know way more than I do. Some of them can't use Excel. So when I require, for example, okay, you're going to throw this all into a shared, the Google version of Excel, right? The spreadsheet, and they don't know how to do it. I help them through that. There are things that if we set up our curriculum in a certain way, even the more basic technological tools, right? If we sort of require them, but with support and with understanding the brecha and all of that, the digital divide and access, important issues of access, incorporating these things gives our students tools that then they can later use. Oh, I use Excel in my criminal justice class now, right? So these are basic college and citizen tools. And again, I'm speaking only about these really basic ones because I don't know the fancy ones that Maria Luisa just mentioned. But when I have them do like a Google Doc and they each have to go in there and type stuff up, that was my Blackboard. I mean, some people I know, they had a whiteboard behind themselves, like while they were teaching online during COVID. I just went into the Google Drive and used that. So there are these little things that I think, the question here says leverage technological tools to facilitate their learning. That's one thing that I notice, is that a lot of them gravitate towards that naturally. And if we can incorporate it to the extent that we're able, and give them the support they need to carry out these tasks, even if it's just learning Excel, right? It can be very, very useful. Go in your community and find X and then, put it in the Excel, right? That can be very useful.
And I think that's a great point, Kim, that we can teach him some of these tools that are so important to achieving digital literacy and what Robert Blake calls critical literacy, which is the ability to think, how do I learn from what's out there, right? And we as teachers can also learn from our students, because I have some students that are very tech savvy that can help me and can help other students in the class. But I also want to mention, it's really important that we survey students. Here we are sitting as teachers, as instructors, trying to figure out what we can do for our students. And I think the first step might be, let's survey them. Let's start by asking them what is working, what is not working, what would help you in the future to take full advantage of the online context or format. So I would suggest that is an important topic of research in our field, surveying, seeing where their needs lie and where the advantages of this format lie.